Our first speaker is Carolyn Coyne. The title of her speech is Drink the Water.
Half full or half empty. A friend of mine posted a video on Instagram a couple of months ago. Now, this wasn't the typical post of someone's vacation caught on GoPro or someone's daily vlonica. No, this video was different, and I still think about it. In the video, this brilliant poet named Rudy Francisco gives a speech titled Complainers. He talks of how some people, after being struck down by horrendous tragedies, when asked about it, could not even speak. They couldn't say a word. So I was thinking about this, and I thought about just how much I talk a day. Sure, my mouth isn't constantly running, and I wouldn't call myself a chatterbox, but I definitely do talk. A lot. I think we all do. A quick Google search let me know that on average, people speak 16,000 words a day. Granted, that's not everybody, as it is an average, but still. So what are these 16,000 words made of? As Rudy said, the things a lot of us complain about lie on the tips of our tongues. We say things like, shoot, I have a math test next that I barely studied for, or man, the line for chicken tenders is so long. Like, come on, a 4-minute wait? These service complaints come naturally to a lot of us because we hear them all the time. It's exactly like how the older you are, the better you should know the old John Pingry song just because of the sheer amount of times you've heard it, theoretically. So, when we hear these service complaints over and over again, they become so ingrained in our heads that we almost become deaf to the other complaints. Our whole focus becomes fixated on those little things, and sometimes we feel like we are drowning in it all. We have this feeling for a reason. Everything is founded on some level of truth, and obviously part of that truth is the stress of our environment. We are all fighting our own battles that not everybody knows about. But ask yourself this, even though some of these battles feel like the world right now, are they? Think about what you've complained about today. Maybe you've groaned, I'm so tired. Maybe you didn't have a good breakfast. Maybe you really don't want to listen to any of these speeches right now. But think about it. The fact that you can hear me is something incredible. You have ears and a brain, and you can think, and you're alive, and honestly, that's pretty amazing. So let's all try to think about what we say before we complain, rant, and vent. Because if we all complain about our math tests or the lunch of the day, there's no time or energy left to hear the complaints that are below the surface and way in the depths. We can't hear the ones that belong to the silent and the suffering, and we often forget about them. So, who is below, beneath the surface where we cannot see? Who is suffering so much that they cannot verbalize it because they feel so broken inside and saying something would feel like the final shattering piece? It's probably happening to more people than you think. So we can't just always focus on and throw out that life preserver to the people struggling on the surface. We can't always just indulge in the little complaints. Sometimes we have to look deeper. And I know it's scary. I'm a lifeguard, and when I think about some poor kid drowning in 12 feet of water, I get scared. Like, I know that I'm certified, but there's still a fear. What if I can't help them? What if I'm not enough? But that fear would never actually hold me back from jumping into that pool if I saw someone at the bottom. No, of course not. And I highly doubt that anybody would say anything different. Most people would try. So then, why is it that when we do catch a glimpse of these drowners, not in the pool, but in our own lives, it's so much harder for us to make a move? Maybe it's because it's murky down there, and we're not actually sure if we see someone. Maybe the sun is blocking our vision, and all we can see is the light and the goodness in our own lives. Maybe we're distracted by the ones bobbing on the surface and complain, or by the ones goofing off with their friends and fake drowning. But that's nowhere near enough of a reason or an excuse. We have to go past the surface and open ourselves up to the deep. We have to stop letting all the light in our lives blind us from seeing the real struggles. We have to give people the space to talk about the serious and not make them feel like they should just be complaining about chicken tenders. And that's not to say completely ignore the surface drowners. No. Complaints are complaints, and when someone's hurting, they're hurting. But don't drown out others' ongoing hurt with the repetitive sound of what you thought went bad about your day, but will probably forget tomorrow. Now back to Rudy. He had this one-liner that literally made me pause the video and stare at the screen. It was quite a moment. He said that every year, remember, 2 million people die of dehydration, so it doesn't matter if the glass is half full or half empty, there's water in the cup, so drink that and stop complaining. Now that's insane, that's literally insane. Listen, 2 million. We hear stats like that all the time, and 2 million is only the tip of the iceberg. Those deaths are only from dehydration. What about starvation? What about cancer? What about stroke, AIDS, tuberculosis, cardiac arrest, poisoning, drug overdose, suicide? The list goes on and on. 2 million is such a ginormous number for a relatively small cause of pain. The pain is so much greater than we think. Just try to think about those 2 million. Actually think about it. Can you picture 2 million people? Can you picture 2 million people dying? I can barely picture 100 because my suffering is limited. Our lives are consumed by first world problems. We don't get our favorite lunch, we lose a game, we fail a test, we choose between 2 parties, we lose one of our AirPods, the internet is slow and the water tastes bad. And yes, I know there has to be complaints in our community far deeper than this because pain touches more people than you would think. But I don't actually know about them, and a lot of us don't actually know about them because all we hear is the surface. And me having to wait in line for chicken tenders in the grand scheme of things really means nothing. So why should I complain about it? I am so lucky to get hot food every day for lunch, so who cares how long I have to wait for it? I am so lucky to get an education, so who cares if I mess up one test? I catch myself and others taking our lives for granted, but we can't keep doing that. Stop nitpicking over the positive or the negative, especially the negative in everything, and take life as it is. Make the effort to stop complaining about the nothing, open up to the depths into what really matters, and drink the water.